Hey, it's your contrarian soul guide, Dawn, and you're listening to Sovereignty Rising, the space where we unlearn the fear and reclaim the flame. Today, I want us to talk about what happens when we ask for a change, when we are ready for that next thing, when we're begging for it, when we're asking for our purpose, when we're saying we really want the next thing, and we don't do it. When we ask for something, but yet we want to grip onto the past. So if this is you, if you keep asking for change, you journal, you pray, you say you're ready for the next chapter, but you don't walk away. You say you're ready for peace, you want it, but you keep choosing chaos. You crave freedom, but won't leave the cage. You long for something new, but refuse to put down the old. I see you, because I've been there. This isn't about shame today. This is about seeing clearly, about holding yourself with love as you admit, I want something different, but I'm still clinging to what I know. Today, we're not shaming the part of you that stayed. We're just inviting the part of you that's ready to go. Let's talk about what it means to walk away with love, to leave the job, the relationship, the story, the identity, not with bitterness, but with integrity. Welcome to Sovereignty Rising. Ditch the fear, embrace your flame. I'm Dawn Elgin, contrarian soul guide, visionary mystic, and creatrix of practical spiritualism. And this is the space where we strip away the fear, burn the old stories down, and reclaim the power that was never truly lost, just buried. Here, we dive into raw, unfiltered conversations on emotional healing, spiritual awakening, and the art of unlearning everything that keeps you stuck, small, and disconnected from your truth. Together, we rise like phoenixes. Flame first, fear last. Let's rise together. So why do we stay when we want more? We don't stay because we're weak. We stay because we're scared. Because we were really never taught how to leave well. Think about it. We stay in jobs because they feel safe. We stay in relationships because we're afraid of loneliness. We stay in beliefs because they feel familiar even when they hurt. For many of us, walking away has been labeled as failure or disloyalty. I can't tell you how many times I stayed in situations thinking that if I was just better, it would be fine, it would work. I would heal, they would heal. And let's be honest, it was absolute bullshit. What if leaving is the most honest thing you can do? What if walking away is the most powerful thing your soul can say? You're not weak for staying, but you are being invited to rise by leaving. This is the moment to be honest. What are you pretending doesn't hurt? Where are you convincing yourself to settle? There's no shame here, only awareness. And awareness is the beginning of freedom. Before we go forward, let's talk about that word awareness. If we can think of awareness as a beam of flashlight, and if you think about it, often you'll hear people use the term the highest vibration of love and light to be a term towards source energy, God, universe. And so the highest vibration of light is pure information. It's pure oneness, unity consciousness. And so all information is within the light. And shadows or darkness is just the absence of information. And so we take all the drama, all of the stories out of it. When we're a little kid, we're scared of what's in the closet because it's dark and we can't see what's in it. We're scared of what's under the bed because we can't see what's under there. But as soon as we flick a light on, we open the curtains in daylight and light pours in, we have all this information. And the same happens when we turn that beam, that light inward, when we turn it into ourself, into our quiet whisperings, our deepest desires, when we turn that beam of awareness into our dreams. And it's also what happens when we put that beam of awareness on our fears. The fear of rejection, of not being accepted, the fear of being alone. We're tribal beings. But once we place that beam of awareness on our fears, we start gathering more information. And now, ego, second term I want us to go into today. If you've heard me talk about it before, it's okay. There's always more that comes through. So our ego is just our identification with form. So that is physical form, thought form, emotional form. And that's going to include things like thought forms, our ideas, our beliefs. It's also going to include our emotions, our emotional form, which will include our memories. It includes our experiences. All of these things we identify as, and it's the identification with these things, not only our physical body, but our stuff, our homes, our relationships, that create this identity, which we call our ego. Now, in itself, there's nothing wrong with ego. Ego is identification with form, and it is part of our journey in this world of being human. The problem is when we manifest in this world and we start to identify as our body, as our name, as this member of our family, as our culture, as our society, as our intelligence, as our gifts, we also start to become unaware, or we unidentify as our soul, as light, as pure consciousness, as what we are when we're unembodied. And so in the beginning, our embodiment in this world starts to create a confusion. And so to become more adapted, more adaptable within this world of form, we kind of turn off the light of consciousness. And as we start to grow, as we start to question and want more in this world, we start to reawaken. And so ego creates an unconsciousness, it creates a world of shadows, of separation. It's a world of illusions. And consciousness is the sacred light that is within us. It is pure information, pure potential, and it is what we truly are beyond, underneath all of this. So when we say awareness is the beginning of freedom, what we're saying is we're shining a light toward our ego, toward those identities, to check and see, when we have all the information, is this true for me? Is this in my highest good? Does this fit? Is this right anymore? And it might have been right for the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 2 days. But is it right for me now? And every single moment that we stay, when our soul says go, when our consciousness, that awareness, that light goes, we dull our light. It's like we take a dimmer switch and we just turn the light down a bit more. And when we do this, it erodes self-trust. We teach our system that our intuition isn't safe to follow. But here's the truth. You're not asking for change from a place of ego. You're asking because something inside of you, pure consciousness, your soul, knows there's more for me. And I'm meant to meet it. I'm so much bigger than this. You don't get a dream, a desire that can't be manifested. Divine timing is a thing. And crossing that threshold doesn't mean abandoning everyone and everything. It means choosing not to abandon yourself. And it's okay to grieve. It's okay to be scared. It's okay if it doesn't all make sense yet. But don't let fear keep you from freedom. That's what the ego wants. Our ego wants us to stay in this place of shadow. It doesn't want the light to be shined on it. If you think about it, our ego when we're younger is like a 3-year-old. It is, I love to think of our ego really linked heavily with our amygdala. And so it is the one that panics. Is it safe? Is it not? And that really is when we start to give it our power, when we're looking for safety and security. And so in our desire for safety and security, both in physical as well as emotional and mental, we start to give more and more power to ego, to the world around us, to other people. And the more that we give our power, that light, that force of energy to other people, the less we have within ourselves. And at any point in time, we can simply cut off the flow going outward so that all of that light can be maintained inward. There are so many times that I let fear keep me from my freedom, which is funny considering that freedom was what I thought was one of my main values. I used to believe that my 3 core values were courage, freedom, and wholeheartedness. It was after I learned about wholeheartedness from Brene Brown. And I really loved that idea of wholeheartedness. And for myself, wholeheartedness is exactly how I would describe sovereignty, to be self-governing, not to be pushed and pulled by our fears, our dramas, and our traumas, but to be completely open, to be self-sovereign. And so freedom ended up evolving into sovereignty, and wholeheartedness was evolved into sovereignty. Courage stayed. And then I started to realize that there were some other places that I needed to come into alignment that would really help me stay on the path of light, of consciousness, respect, and part of that being loyalty. And so I used to think loyalty was one of my values, and I realized that when I held loyalty on its own, it actually threw me out of alignment. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, and how these values can really help us when we're on this journey. Let me share with you a few moments I knew it was time to walk away, and I didn't. One of them is one that's so clear to me, and it holds as such an anchor for who I am today. I loved my job as a manager and a designer for a residential lighting showroom. It was part of a big building supply company, and I was good at it. My ego was really well fed. And the thing is it held a big chunk of my story, of my identity was wrapped up in this job. I had been living in a town a little ways from here, from where I live now. And I had gone through a separation with my second husband, the father of my son. In that separation, I ended up becoming bankrupt. I was a single mother, and I was struggling financially, as well as emotionally. And I was trying my best to hold it all together. And my life was unraveling. My bosses, they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. At that time in my life, I was pretty defeated. I was looking well outside of myself for people to tell me what my worth was. I was begging for somebody to show me that I was lovable, that I was worthy of love, that I was worthy of this life that I had. And my bosses, I had 3 of them, they came to me and they said, look, what's happening here in this job isn't working. And we think that you should move up into our other branch and open up a lighting showroom for us. We think that your talents are being kind of hindered working in the offices, and we think that you should move out into sales. And at the time, I had a mantra belief and that was that I don't like people. And so I was like very hesitant to take this job. And they said, we really, really believe you'll be good at it. And so we're going to give you some safety nets. We're going to give you the ability to go back to the old role that you had. And so if you feel after, 6 months, a year that that is just where you're better at, then we'll move you back. It was a job that they were willing to give me the same income as my base, but I would be moving into commission, so I would have the ability to make more. So it would solve all of my financial issues. And at the time that they offered the job, it was really humiliating to me because I had to tell them I couldn't afford to move because I was bankrupt, and nobody had known that. And so they were a little shocked to find out the whole story of what was going on, and they paid for me to move. They helped me put down the deposit on my new apartment. They helped me get my son set up in school, and they gave me a allowance for my car, for insurance, all these things because I'd be driving for work. And so all these things would allow me to be able to breathe again, to be able to pay my bills and buy groceries, not only for my son, but for myself as well. And so I took the opportunity and I moved. And for the first while, before they were ready for lighting to get sorted out, I would go into other departments that were struggling. And that was one of the things that I used to do for them was I would go into departments and I would reset them. I'd remerchandise them, get them set up and running again. And so this is what I would do. I'd go in and do this in different areas. And each time I would set up an area, I'd be like, okay, I don't actually, like doors or like appliances or like these roles. So I definitely want out of this. And so as I would do these things, I would be congratulated and very well pat on the back and given a lot of accolades for what I was doing for the company. And I was starting to make a life for myself, for my son. I was starting to have the bandwidth and some space to be present with my son. And as I was getting more accolades, I also started to work harder because that's the kind of person I am. So I was a loyalist and still am a loyalist, but in alignment with myself as opposed to out of alignment. And so I would work crazy hours. I started working on weekends and in the evenings, and I loved what I was doing, so it didn't seem like work. I did lots of stuff with my son, but there was a lot of juggling in here. But the truth is I was really good at it. And my ego was really, really well fed. I was given the nickname of the lighting goddess. All of my friendships, all of my relationships were actually based around work. My friends were my coworkers. They were reps for my lighting. They were people that worked for the companies in lighting. My mentor was my boss, who not only mentored me into being able to create a lighting showroom and believe in myself that I was capable of doing it, but was also a mentor in my own personal development, in seeing that I was smarter than I thought I was, in kind of pushing me towards healing and letting go of my resentments and my fears and, really just becoming a better person all around. My work was really what allowed my lifestyle to be possible as it grew financially. Suddenly, I went from being this bankrupt mom to being helped through work to build my first home. So you can see where there'd be so much loyalty here with this company that had supported me, through financial devastation, through divorce, through getting myself back on my feet. And each time saying, like, we believe in you, you can do this. And my whole life was wrapped in it. And so when all of a sudden things started to feel off and I was like, is this it? Like, is this all there is? People are going to complain about light bulbs. I started to struggle. All of a sudden I was like, there's got to be more than this. And within that, now there's going to be a problem because I have built all of this with 100% commitment. And all of a sudden, I'm feeling pulled into other directions. My spiritual director at the time, my spiritual coach, was the wife and one of the owners of one of our biggest construction companies. And she kept saying to me, Dawn, you're meant to be coaching. You're meant to be coaching. And when I was asked, what is it that you love about your job the most? It wasn't actually lighting, which was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed lighting and putting it together. But what I loved more was helping people find the joy in the process of building their homes, I loved helping people come in that were freaking out and fighting with each other and helping them get back on track. Having husband and wives walk out holding hands and excited to build their house again and asking what the charge was for the couples counseling session. And so my coach, my mentors were very much like, you're supposed to be coaching. And I couldn't even fathom how I was supposed to keep this whole life, this whole lifestyle that I had created. I had now have, a husband that and children that we're raising together. I have this whole life that is being built financially on this job. And how am I going to stop that and be able to make any sort of change like this? And so I tried doing a little bit, I tried to, okay, I'll take some coaching courses in leadership. And I thought I'd be doing business coaching, but I just couldn't really let it go. And here I was saying I wanted more. I wanted my purpose. I wanted this journey, but I was in no way letting go. And what started happening was work started to feel more uncomfortable. Suddenly, my coworkers and I weren't clicking anymore, not on that friendship level. We were still great business-wise, but it lacked connection. All of a sudden, I felt like everything was just slightly off. Everything, like the timing just wasn't right anymore. And I started to find myself, I don't know, more irritable, more frustrated, more resentful of people that wanted my time. And it was me. I was the one I was frustrated with. I was the one I was resentful for. I was the one that, was pointed at everybody else, but really it was inside. It was me. I was the one that wasn't fitting. But I also was the one that just wasn't capable of letting go. It was then that 2-car accident happened within a week of each other. Individually, probably would have recovered from them without much problem. Together, it disrupted my nervous system, and everything started to shut down. It'd be 6 more months of struggling, trying to continue on, even though I knew I shouldn't. And my body and my brain would just keep shutting down more and more and more until finally I had no choice, and the doctors put me on permanent disability. Later on, as I started to try to be my coaching training, I would go through all of the niches. I was going to be a business coach, and that didn't fit anymore. And then I was thinking, I'm going to coach women who are going through, divorce or trauma, because I'd been through that, or identity losses, because I was certainly going through all of that. And all of these things, even though I knew they weren't fully aligned, they were aligned in the beginning as I was exploring them, but then they kept outgrowing, and they were outgrowing faster and faster. And I was being shown how to shed, and I just wasn't getting it. I just wasn't able to let go. I thought, I'm going to look flaky. I'm going to look like I don't know what I'm doing, and it was just so freaking hard. And underneath it all, here's the fascinating piece. 2 years into this journey of coaching, I don't even know if it was full 2 years, I was introduced to Carolyn Mace. And you've probably heard me talk about her before. And she had a recording of a workshop she had done, Advanced Energy Anatomy. It had shown up on my phone. And all of a sudden, all I could do was listen to this one book. Nothing else would work. My phone would freeze. Nothing would work if I tried to listen to it. And so as I listened to her, I was being slowly but surely guided towards the work I do now. But I couldn't get it. I just couldn't get that it was okay to be me in my full personality. I didn't need to soften. I didn't need to be, a Buddhist monk. I didn't need to be somebody else. I didn't need to be gentler. I needed to be true and authentic. And so I was given all these different teachers and mentors from a distance trying to show me what was possible if I would just be in alignment with myself. Through Carolyn Mace, I found out about spiritual directors, which is when my spiritual coach turned into my spiritual director when I asked her to. And I ended up doing the certification and became a certified spiritual director. And I never told anybody. The idea of being a spiritual coach felt like it was way too big for somebody like me. And so instead, I held on to all these other pieces. I held on to an offering that didn't really excite me, but it's what I knew, what I'd been taught, and what I thought people wanted or needed. I kept showing up in ways that maybe looked polished and professional, but weren't really me. It was like I had to figure out who is Dawn, and yet I couldn't let go of who I thought I was supposed to be. And each time I told myself I was being responsible. But the thing is what I was really doing is being irresponsible and betraying myself, betraying my soul. And when I finally walked away from each of those things, fear didn't win. Freedom did. Clarity did. Self-respect did. It didn't feel clean. It didn't feel easy. But it felt true. It felt authentic. And that's what I trust now. Let's not sugarcoat it. Walking away hurts, even when it's the right choice. There's grief. There's identity death. There's the ache of letting go of a version of you that did the best she could. And she even worked at that time. But pain isn't the enemy. It's the passage. There's a quote that I love. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Pain is inevitable. It is things that we're going to experience from loss, from just being in this world, physical, mental, emotional. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Suffering is caused by our thoughts. The thought that things should be different than they are, that life should be easy, that people should behave certain ways, that things are different than what they are. And it's not true. I always think of Byron Katie's book, Loving What Is. When we learn how to love what is, we stop gripping onto the past, which is the cause of our suffering. We stop gripping onto our expectations and our judgments, and we just get really present. When we walk away with intention and love, we don't burn bridges, which is the thing I was terrified of from walking away from that job. My mentor, these people, they believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I felt disloyal leaving, even though it didn't fit anymore. The funny thing is, it was my mentor that said to me that staying when it wasn't fitting wasn't loyalty. It's how we leave that's loyal. So when we walk away with intention, with love, with respect, we don't burn bridges. We build new foundations. Sometimes you don't even know where you're going, which is freaking terrifying. But you just know that you can't stay, and that's enough. When I was in Greece, we were talking about downloads. And one of the things that we were talking about is that we need to step forward. We need to act on what we've already been given. You've already been given a nudge. And until you act on that, we won't be given the next thing. And often what we hold on to from fear is we think, oh no, I can't leave until I see the whole path. And that's just not true. You can absolutely go. That's what keeps things exciting. I was listening to a reel on Instagram today, and they were talking about how time seems faster as we get older. And the reason for that is we just are doing the same thing. Nothing's really exciting. It's not novel anymore. And the truth is, the reason it's not novel is because we keep gripping onto the past. And when life is novel, when we are doing new things and trying stuff and it's exciting, then time seems to slow down. All of a sudden, it's like, how did I get so much into 1 year? And yet now it's like, I don't know, nothing seems to happen, but there's half the year's gone already. So we want to do these novel things. The truth is, there's a very, very small thing that is the difference between the feeling of anxiety and the feeling of excitement. And the difference between them is the story that you're telling yourself. Think about that. That's that suffering piece. We suffer when we tell ourselves a story that things are supposed to be different than they are, that this is scary. By simply changing that language and changing the way we choose to look at it, not just one, but both, and we start saying, you know what? Yeah, this is a bit scary, but it's also exciting. I wonder. And we start tapping into that resource of I wonder. We start changing the experience of what we're going through. The thing is, our body always knows. All this suffering that I've been talking about, that we've been talking about with ego and all the rest, it all is linked with mind. If your mind is confused, check in with your body. It's always telling you the truth. Our mind is easily hijacked by the ego. Remember, when we're born, when we manifest into this world, we start to become more and more unconscious. We start to think we're our bodies, to think that we're our minds, our thoughts, our emotions, our experiences, and we believe that we're all these identities that we've played. And we're not. We're none of those things. All of those things are just experiences. We experience our body. It's a process. We experience thought. There are electrical charges in the quantum field. We experience emotions, rising and falling of a magnetic energy within us. And then we feel these things inside of the body. The ego uses the mind because it's the easiest place for it to go. And then it uses the nervous system to confuse us so that we don't want to go inward. We're scared to feel. So it tells us all these dangers, and then it uses the nervous system to feel anxious, to feel worried, to feel overwhelmed. And so then we're scared to go into our body because it feels like this territory is such a unstable place. But the body remains the territory of the soul. Feeling is like the ego's urban myth. It's not the monster you think it is. Feeling, when we go inward, is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to hear something deeper than this incessant chatter of our neurotic inner roommate. It's an opportunity to sense into something that is quieter and stronger. I love the quote. It's my husband's favorite quote. And the quote is, "Silence is the language of God. Everything else is a cheap imitation." And I think of that when I think of the difference between my ego and my soul. My ego is screaming. It's freaking out, and it's telling me all the reasons things aren't good if we change and why we need to continue on. And it's always pulling me outside of myself. It's always taking me to other people's opinions, other people's thoughts. It's grasping to things and stuff to bring us our value, our worth. And our soul is this silent, quiet strength, this calm that's inside of us. And we can only sense it through the body. So we come in through the breath, in through our heart, so that we can start to check in. So let's check in together. Notice where your breath is landing. Just notice it. If you're able to right now, I invite you to close your eyes. If not, then you can do this one with your eyes open. And just notice, where's your breath? Is it up in your shoulders? Is it in your neck? Is it high in your chest? And as you notice your breath, can you start to deepen it a little bit? Can you slow the breath down just a titch? Can you allow your ribs to expand as you breathe in and gently knit back together as you breathe out? Can you soften your hips and your pelvic floor? Let your buttocks relax so that you can start to draw your breath down a little deeper, allowing your waistline to expand as you breathe in and gently retract as you breathe out. Can you deepen it just a little bit more? connecting into your pelvic bowl. And as you start to deepen the breath, just notice your body. Notice where you're holding tension in your body. Just see if you can soften it a bit. Now that you're present with it, now that you're aware of it, can it just soften a little more? And as you're present with your body, bring to mind that situation that feels like it's time to leave. That feels like something's off. Does your chest tighten at the thought of staying? Do you feel exhausted every time you say yes, or maybe every time you say no? Are you holding tension in your gut, jaw, or shoulders? Do you feel a sense of retracting, of pulling back? Your body isn't betraying you. It's begging you to listen. You are safe to trust yourself, even if you don't have it all figured out. Even if you can't explain it to anyone else. Let's do a gentle walk away practice. Begin to deepen that breath again. Bring to mind that situation that you know you need to walk away from. And now ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I let go? Fear is the illusion of separation, of loss. And ego defends with anger, resentment, resistance. And so we want to know what the fear is underneath it. What am I afraid will happen if I let go? And as you hit that fear, you might ask yourself, is that true? Will that really happen? And if it does, then what? And ask your body, what is my body asking for? What does freedom feel like in this moment? Is it staying? Is it leaving? Is it making a micro adjustment? So often we think we need to burn it all, and what we really need to do is pivot. Let yourself feel what it would be like to choose you, to trust your inner voice, to walk toward peace, even if you can't see that whole path. And when you're ready, silently or out loud, just affirm to yourself, I honor the part of me that stayed, and I trust the part of me that's ready to let go. I honor the part of me that stayed, and I trust the part of me that's ready to go. You're not broken for hesitating. You're human. But if your soul is whispering, it's time, trust her. Because every walk away creates space for the truer you, the most authentic you. You don't need to know the whole path. You just need to take the first step. It's safe to walk away. It's time to rise. You are not broken. You are not too much. You're remembering who you've always been. And this journey is just getting started. If today's episode lit something in you, hit follow so you don't miss what's coming. And if you're feeling it, leave a review. It helps with more soul-led women find this space. Want to go deeper? Come find me on YouTube, Facebook, our private Facebook community, The Awakening Circle, Instagram, TikTok, or at our website, practicalspiritualismco.com, for all the ways we can rise together. Not to worry, all those links are in our show notes. Until next time, stay sovereign, stay bold, and keep that fire lit.